do what you wanna do what you wanna do what you wanna do what you wanna do.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm actually good. I just arrived today. I've a 10-hour flight from the States, and I came with my daughter, who's in the audience, 11-year-old, and she has no idea what's going on. So here we are.
Idris just said to me side stage, I don't deserve to be on this stage, which is he's been very modest. But I thought, I mean, the main reason we wanted Idris here today is that just obviously your connection with music. Most people obviously think you're an actor, which you are, pretty good one. But I think it's just here to hear your story of how you got started and why. I mean, obviously it made the press. There was a lot written about your residency when you chose to go DJing.
Yeah.
Shocked a lot of people. It's like Idris Elba does a 7-week residency?
Yeah, 7 week. Yeah.
In a pub basically, and I was honoured enough to be the first guest DJ. But obviously that's not where it started. So just tell us your history of how it all started for you growing up in London.
Well, it really started, I was literally about 13, 14. My uncle, and this story's out there in the press, but my uncle was a DJ. He played a lot of weddings and christenings and, predominantly African weddings, where we played Nigerian records that were about this thick vinyl and 17 minutes long. And so my uncle would have he had this Citronic double deck. And so it was his pride and joy. He had 3 sons and me, and we used to go out with him and DJ. And really, we were the box boys, lifting the speakers, putting the wires down. And then, after 17 minutes of one record and he's out there dancing with some young girl, he'd just look at us and say, change the record. Or something like that, and then so that's how it started. At the same time, me and my best friend Boogie, who I work with now, we didn't steal. We had a pair of double decks that were given to us.
School, didn't it?
School, yeah. They were the most basic decks you've ever seen in your life. Just 2 turntables in a box with 2 knobs like that, and that was it. And I remember me and him walking down Barking Road with this massive box. It looked like a coffin. And we went home, and I couldn't tell my mum and dad, and we hid it underneath my bed. And that's where Boogie, who used to be right into scratching and that, and I remember just watching him scratching, and we started DJing from there. And then,
when is this? Is the 80s or?
Yeah, this is about sort of 85, 86, something like that. I was just probably about in the 4th year of secondary school. And then from there, it was sort of like this massive progression towards sort of pirate radio and sound system. My uncle, I started outgrowing what my uncle was doing and wanted my own sound system. So me, Boogie, and a few others, we started a sound system called Social Affair.
Nice.
What a name. And that was it. I started DJing in this sound system, and we would get house party gigs, and I was on pirate radio. There's a couple of pirate radio stations in London, like Climax and Paradise. And that was it. That was where we started.
You had a moniker, Mr. Kipling.
Yeah. Mr. Kipling was my first DJ name. Well, Idrico was my first DJ name, and that was because my mum used to call me Idrico. But Mr. Kipling was my first DJ name because apparently, Boogie gave me the name. He said to me, every time we go to a party, there was loads of ladies around and blah, 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 and I'd be with the ladies and blah, blah, blah. And he said, you know what, Idris, you got more tarts than Mr. Kipling. I never forget him saying it, and then it stuck, and that was our name.
It's an English cake.
Yeah, for those who don't know.
And so, what was the next stage? You because I believe you also like working night shifts in Dagenham car plant.
So simultaneously, I was sort of like finishing school, and I was in love with my drama teacher at the time, Miss McPhee, and I was really sort of focusing on acting, and I thought I could do it. So, she encouraged me to do a 2-year performing arts course, doing drama, dance, I did a little ballet, I did it all. And my dad said, well, you've got to work, you want to be a DJ, you want to be an actor, but you've got to make some money. So I ended up working with him at Ford's, doing the night shift, and then going to college during the day. And simultaneously, I was really heavy into the pirate radio then. I had a Saturday show between, it was a drive time, so it was like 6 till 8. And do you remember one-to-one phones?
Yeah.
You remember one-to-one? Yeah. They had that free deal between 6 and 6 or whatever. Yeah. So I managed to be able to use my one-to-one phone to do live call-ins, and no one was doing that on pirate radio. So I got this little microphone, stuck it to the end of the phone, and did live call-ins. And
right. Who were the other DJs around at that time? Was it Westwood and people like that? Or
Westwood was massive at the time. Jazzy B, Soul to Soul were massive at the time. And we, you know, at that time we were into sort of big sound systems like East London, you know, had Special Touch and, you know, Touch of Class and all these sound systems that came from the street culture. And then in terms of like, I don't know, like drum and bass was starting to emerge then. So you're talking about, you know, Brocky and, you know, Groove Rider, all those guys were starting to spread out, you know, just towards like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And this is when I started to get into I was getting into sort of drum and bass and house and that, and two-step eventually in that sort of time.
Do you remember the early raves, like late? Were you off to New York by then? Or?
No, I was in London. You know, the rave scene for me, I was in the sort of street cut sound. So, you know, the Touch of Classes and all those guys, I was in that. But, you know, I remember going to like, you know, Sunday Roast, which was a big Sunday drum and bass party. And that was like my real first sort of introduction into heavy electronic, you know what I mean? Like, you know, big arenas, you know, 16,000 DJs. And then I remember my first entry into that world as a DJ was Coliseum, Twice as Nice on a Sunday. And, you know, Carl Tough Enough Brown, Matt Jam Lamont, and all those boys were DJing in the main room, and then I'll be DJing in the soul and R&B room with Steve Sutherland and Confunction and those boys.
Okay. So then I think you got a grant from the Prince's Trust, right, to help your acting.
Yeah.
And then eventually you're off to New York to pursue your dream.
Yeah, I had this love affair with New York, you know, like all the actors that I really admired were sort of from New York, like Rob De Niro and, you know, Marlon Brando, all these actors that were sort of, you know, marquee to me, all came from New York. So I found myself going to New York around, you know, by the time I was about 21, 22. I just started making money in a small TV show for BBC One as a children's show. I was 19 playing someone 16. But anyway, I started making money and I went to New York. And I'd go to New York sort of pretty much every year for like 3 or 4 months. And the Prince's Trust helped me sort of prior to that. And that was it, you know, for me, that's where I really
DJing got you through the early days in New York as well. You were living pretty rough, right? Living in a car at some point.
So after like, you know, about 6 years of going back and forth to New York, I decided to go. I went there and I'd saved up a decent amount of money, but when I got to New York, the marketplace was so saturated, I couldn't work. Didn't get any jobs. And basically I sort of shipped all my records. I had about 4,000 records. And I'd shipped over about half of those records in crates, and I worked using them. And literally, like my daughter, who's 11 now, you know, literally was raised on that money because I was sort of working on.
Where were you DJing?
I was doing little bars. So there's a little bar in East 3rd Street called Guernica, and then I did a bar called Sliver, and there's a famous bar called Madam X. There's a famous smaller bar called Ludlow Bar, and these are all in the same East Village. And I remember there was a DJ in New York called Greg Paul, who's really sort of like the East Village DJ at that time. And he came to Ludlow Bar, and I was playing really early two-step stuff, you know, like the Soul Solids and all of that. And he was like, hey man, nobody's playing this, like you're the only guy playing it. So eventually he started playing it for me, and I started DJing on the mic, MCing on the mic. And we had this, and then we started a little crew called the Wicked Crew out there. But yeah, you know, like, DJing was definitely like, it was my bread and butter because I couldn't work as an actor out there. My visa only allowed me to work as an actor or audition, so I couldn't do any other job. So, you know, under the table DJing was the only way I could make some money.
So take us from there to how you end up getting your breakout part as Stringer Bell.
Stringer Bell, yeah. It was literally the day before my daughter was born, literally the day before, I went for the last audition for The Wire. And it was, you know, I'd gone to 4 auditions, and you know, if anyone knows The Wire, I was actually auditioning for Avon Barksdale. Right. And 4 auditions later, on the 4th day, the day before my kid was born, they say to me, you know what, we're going to give you the job, but we're not going to give you Avon Barksdale, we're going to give you this other character, Stringer. And I remember looking through the script going, Stringer? What? He's got 4 lines. What? But it was my saving grace. I mean, it really completely changed my life around. My daughter's name is Isan, and there's a tattoo on my arm that says the long-awaited gift bearer. And literally, the day she was born, my whole world changed because I got the news for The Wire. And that was it. You know, America started to happen for me. It was literally 2 years later that The Wire had blown up into what it was in America, and then much later around the rest of the world.
It was really discovered in the kind of world of the box sets. And,
Yeah.
that's certainly the way I came across you.
Yeah, even
and
to
of course,
this,
no one could believe you were English.
at that point I wasn't English because all I was doing is talking in an American accent. You know, I couldn't
Well,
talk.
harder than that, a Baltimore accent.
Yeah, Baltimore accent.
Did you have to move down there to do all that?
Yeah, I kind of shot in Baltimore pretty much all the whole time, and you know, to get the accent, it's quite specific Baltimore accent. So I had to be there and pick it up. Yeah.
Amazing time.
It was,
Amazing
man.
series,
It was
yeah.
definitely, you know, I can't forget that time. It could, you know, character-wise, it built me as a person, as a man. You know what I mean? Because it was some tough times, you know, and like, you know, the reason why I'm so attached to my world as a DJ is because it literally, that was what took me through it. You know, when I had no other money and I couldn't do bartending or do anything else, I could pick up some turntables and make some money.
So, but you kept your relationship with music through this. Now you've had this kind of whirlwind, kind of 10 years of non-stop. But you've kept your ties with music by doing, you know, appearing in music videos and directing music videos.
Yeah.
Ending up on the Jay-Z album.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, the Jay-Z album was fluke, to be honest, because
He liked The Wire.
no, actually, you know, he was finishing up his album, and my part of my management team is a guy called Arande, whose girlfriend is Angie Martinez, who is very close to Jay. And Jay was finishing this album, and he didn't know how to finish it. He didn't know what the thread of the whole album was. And so I was in American Gangster, and I hear that Jay-Z's finishing his album and he's looking for some sort of track to encapsulate the whole thing. And that was it, you know. I said to Arande, I want to be on that album. And then, so I hired a studio. I worked with this producer called Chris Flame, and we sat down and I wrote this sonnet. And originally it was a rap, but I ended up doing a poem over a beat. And Jay-Z heard it, and I remember getting this email from Arande, and he said, scroll down from Jay-Z. I'm going, oh, what? So I sent the song and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And it says, Yo, Arande, I don't like this. And then in caps, I fucking love it. I was like, you're joking. And he said, I want to use it to open the album. And that collaboration right there was a blessing for me, because it then sort of validated me for working with other artists. So eventually I produced a song for Angie Stone, I did a song with, you know, Styles P, you know, and those guys, some rappers, and I was just making beats. And there's bits and pieces.
So when did that start then? Because we talked about how you started DJing, but when did you start making music then?
Well, the music.
I noticed when you did the video for Norman last night, you're in a studio. It's your studio. I've always kept. I bought a groove box, man. I bought the original groove box from Roland, you know what I mean? Right, yeah.
Like, and that was my turntables and my groove box. And I was always making these little beats on this groove box, but I never really had the courage to put them out there or sell them or anything like that. So, I mean, and because of my acting schedule, it's such a very hectic schedule, I never really had the time to go studio. So I kind of self-taught myself, you know. I was in groove boxes, and then when groove boxes turned into computers and programs and Logic and Pro Tools, I sort of, you know, veered into that world. And now I've got a studio, and I keep a studio wherever I sort of travel. It's a journey for me. Do you know what I mean? I love music. I love making it. I haven't quite got the confidence yet to put my stuff out, like, to the masses, but that's coming next. You know, I think. So
how are you gonna? What's the limit of your DJing ambitions? Or is there no limit? Because the other thing you've said to me side stage is quite frustrating for you now, that obviously Idris Elba starts DJing. Is it, you know, you're getting booked at celebrity parties? That's not really what you want to do.
No, it's, you know.
Explain to everyone why you went to a pub in Kentish Town, which was quite mad. I mean, they had like myself, Seth Troxler, Roger Sanchez. It was intense atmosphere. It took me back to my beginnings of like
it was
working
like
in
300
pubs.
people, and there was a mix of Idris Elba fans as an actor and real music fans.
I felt there was real your old friends.
Yeah,
it was like a
It reminds me of where, you know, me and Boogie started growing DJing, you know, in places that, you know, it is all about the music. The DJs were the superstars, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and the fact that you came and opened up and you know, my opening night was such a massive tick to like, this is the type of party I'm doing. And for me, you know, I really wanted audiences, you know, people know I DJ and that, but, you know, it's one thing to say you DJ and another thing to actually do it, you know, and celebrity DJs get away with just being able to throw records together and do it. And I sort of don't want that, you know, I kind of resent sort of being put into that box. But at the same time, you know, in order to get myself, you know, listened to and booked, I have to sort of play a hybrid. So like the other day, Boogie and I, we did the BAFTA party, and literally we did it for free because, you know, it's BAFTA, and they said, you're a DJ, you know, you won a nomination, don't you? One day. So we were like, yeah, we'll DJ. So we ended up doing that party, but I mean, I kid you not, man. You know, we played ABBA. We played ABBA. I mean, you know, one of the songs was ABBA. You know, and tonight when I DJ, you know, for Fat Boy's team, you know, like I'm playing a set that I want to play. So it is a massive sort of balancing act. You know, Caroline, my manager, and I, you know, we were just sort of balancing being able to get people to understand that there is a root, there's some heritage here in my music. And what I want to play. Celebrity DJs doesn't actually quite fit into where I want to go musically.
You're going to be doing a residency here as well, aren't you?
Yeah, Ibiza Rocks.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
That's pretty exciting. You know, me and Example and Zane Lowe, all DJs that are massive in London that have, you know, a music ear. People listen to them. And I'm sort of one of the DJs in that, and that's a massive deal for us. You know, David Levy and Caroline, when we booked that, we realised that this was the beginning of, you know, people taking me seriously, you know. It's an hour set every Friday for screaming kids, but it's definitely, you know, I get to play my taste. That's exciting.
Come and do one for us at Ushuaia as well.
Yeah, man, I'm coming, definitely.
I've got to do my Jonathan Ross bit now and ask you, but you've got a couple of incredible film roles coming out this year, right? So tell us about how you've ended up becoming Nelson Mandela.
Again, fluke.
It's kind of like unbelievable responsibility.
Yeah, the Mandela role is, you know, definitely without a doubt the most difficult role I've ever had to play. I prepped for about close to 6 months to a year on it and shot it for about 8 months. Mr. Mandela is obviously very iconic. People know who he is, what he sounds like. I look nothing like him, sound nothing like him. I'm an East London boy, do you know what I mean? But the film really sort of looks at his whole life, and I sort of play him from his early 20s, which is hard to believe, I know, to his 70s. And it's a massive journey, and I'm so thankful that I got the opportunity to do it. We went to South Africa to shoot it, in Cape Town, in Soweto.
They had you out speaking in front of real crowds and everything. Didn't they?
Yeah, I remember I had to do this scene where what Mandela was doing in his height of his campaign, just as after he was a lawyer, he would just literally walk into venues like this where there was a massive audience and just speak about his campaign. And so the director wanted us to surprise an audience of people, well, the extras, but they didn't know who was playing Mandela, what was happening. And so I walked into a room of about 600 people in Soweto in a live theatre, and they were showing an old film. Everyone was dressed in costume. And on action, I had to walk down the middle and jump up on stage and stop the film and do a speech as Mandela. I was shitting myself. I mean, I'm in Soweto, you know, and like his voice, his accent, his demeanor is all over those people's spirits, their souls, you know. They weren't going to have some impersonator come up on stage. And I remember doing the first take, and I stopped the film and I do this speech. And at the end, I throw these flyers up in the air and I say, you know, power or whatnot. And I tell you, man, the whole room was just, you know, just...
I'm shaking.
Yeah, it was hairs on the back of my neck, you know. We did it 8 more times, but each time was just so much more, was powerful. And they embraced me. So I'm really thankful that I had that opportunity.
How's the family with you? Because I think his sister was consulting on the film.
Yeah, Winnie, his daughters consulted on the film, and I met Winnie Mandela. who is a lovely, lovely woman. And she kissed me on my lips, man. Like, she said, "Oh, my husband." I was like, "Oh, yes, I am." Formidable woman, just super strong, and was really thankful that we were approaching this film as a real person, as a real man. And I remember I did a gig out in South Africa as well, and that was just the weirdest day, man. It was just the weirdest day. Like, here I am one day in 4 hours of prosthetics playing Mandela, and the that night we had a gig in this little club, and I'm behind these little CDJs going for it. It's just massive.
Bizarre. You seem to be constantly working. I mean, the other thing I read is while you were spending so long in the makeup chair for Mandela, you ended up writing a film, or
I got
which you'd never done before.
No, I hadn't. No, I was so bored sitting on my ass for 4 hours with this stuff being stuffed to my face.
You could have been writing beats.
Could have been, yeah. And that's what I should have done. But I ended up writing this script that Sky picked up for their half-hour series called Playhouses. And I managed to get Anna Friel and Stephen McIntosh and Nonzo Anonzi to be my cast, and it was the best experience. I'd never directed before. I'd done a video or two, but this was amazing to.
And that's all happened.
It came out last week on TV, and it was
It's about your shoe fetish, isn't it?
Foot fetish.
Foot fetish.
Dare I say? Yeah. No, it's a very bizarre time in as an artist at the moment. You know, I'm sort of really reaching out. You know, I turned 40 last year, and like as soon as I turned 40, I just for some reason just wanted to really achieve all the ambitions I've got a hand on or a grasp on or a vision for. So my music, my DJing, like I'm, just wanting to. It took me a long time to say I'm going to speak to Pete Tong to ask him to DJ with me, But at this point in my life, I'm sort of like going for all of it and just, trying to go for it properly.
You're directing Mumford and Son video as well in the middle of all that.
I did.
It's quite bizarre.
That was bizarre because the Mumford & Sons are massive Wire fans.
Yeah. Oh,
Can you imagine the Mumford & Sons watching the Wire?
I think everyone was watching. How many Wire fans in here? There you go.
Oh, nice one. I was quite surprised that Marcus from the Mumford & Sons calls me up and says, "I love Stringer Bell." I was like, "What? When you're running around with your banjo?" I couldn't understand it. But then we sat down in a pub in Shepherd's Bush, and he said, "Look, we're not going to be in this next video. Would you like to be in it?" I said, "Yeah."
Could do your Christopher Walken.
I said, "But can I direct it?" And they said yes, and so that opportunity came about.
Madness. And the other big film this year is Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do the music for the trailer.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm getting close.
Good. You should.
Tell us about that, because that's the guy that did Pan's Labyrinth, right?
Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy.
And this is a monster film. It's been years in the making, right?
Yeah, no pun intended. Yeah, Guillermo del Toro he's a mad genius filmmaker. He's amazing. And this film is, it takes the Godzilla storyline, I guess, if you like, about sort of like an invasion of a alien race. And it's incredible. I don't know if you've seen the trailers, but it is really incredible. And interestingly enough, like making that film with Guillermo, he even said to me, "Oh, you do music.
Yeah.
You should, put music together." It never quite happened, and I haven't quite figured out how to marry my film and music yet. But
that would be an aspiration for you to do a score.
Yeah. Even with the Mandela soundtrack, I've thought about sort of putting, because I listen to a lot of music. Boogie was there with me. We listened to a lot of music from South Africa, from the world, while I was making that movie. And I think eventually my position as a filmmaker and as a musician will be to try and marry the two. So maybe my films or my music will represent, the films and back and forth.
I think we could get you to play a DJ in a film. They're still trying to write the perfect, DJ story. Hollywood hasn't quite got it right yet.
I think it's all gone. Pete Tong is one of the best ones.
I told him that.
That was a great. What would you do? Part 2?
I'm trying to convince Paul Kay to come back. It nearly sent him into the loony bin, the first one.
Really?
Yeah, it took him a few years to come out. But anyway, I've got to ask you the question you don't like answering, which is the Bond rumours. Would be quite a good one.
Would I? I
think
don't know,
so.
man.
Don't you agree? Yeah. The next James Bond?
I don't know, man. I'm neither shaken or stirred by it.
Is it true?
It's
Have you
not
ever-
true. No, it's
obviously not
it's-
true, but as
it's-
in you're not doing it yet. But
It is a rumor.
would it be something that would interest you?
Well, it's such a massive legacy, you know. It's like to be even
Be like the
considered.
Barack Obama of
Exactly, the first black. But I've said in the press I've had a problem with the word black bond. You know, I just find that. Where was the yellow one? I can't remember the green one either. But you know, it is such a privilege to sort of be considered, you know, as an actor for the Bond role. And you know, I can confirm that we've had meetings, but it's not about me playing Bond, really and truly. It's, you know, they're interested
Meet
in
the Broccolis.
meeting the Broccolis, yeah.
How was the and how what is it like for you now? You know, East London sound system guy, pirate radio guy, hanging out in Hollywood doing the award shows and stuff like that. Do you pinch yourself sometimes?
Yeah. I
'Cause
remember.
I've seen you on some things like the Golden Globes. You look like a little kid well, a big kid.
Dude.
But you were so excited.
When I won the Golden Globe, listen to me.
You told me a story actually. You should tell that story about, was it Brad Pitt or something?
It was, yeah. Dominic West, who's in The Wire, and I were both up for roles. I mean, both up for Golden Globes. Him for The Hour and me for Luther. And we're both sitting on the same table, which was, Anyway, so we're laughing. I said, if I win, I'll mention your name. He goes, no, you fucking won't. I goes, no, you're right, I won't. Anyway, so I won, and I get up. This lady comes and takes me, and we go around the back of the curtain, and standing by the back of the curtain is Brad Pitt. And he says, well done, Idris. What's that, Brad? I was completely flabbergasted. You know, you get starstruck by people, and Brad Pitt's obviously a movie icon. And you know, he was like, well done, Idris. And I walked on stage with a massive grin on my face and did this speech because Brad Pitt had congratulated me. No, it's, you know, Hollywood is, the word Hollywood is such a big myth. You know, it's really not too dissimilar to anywhere in any industry-driven town. I like it there because it's very focused on the work. There's some really talented people that live and work there. And I've been fortunate to penetrate it. But to be honest, you know, you take the boy out of East London, but you can't take East London out of the boy. You know, I'm very much the same guy in Hollywood as I am in loving
the
liquor.
opportunities, obviously, they've, you know, the popularity of dance music, electronic music, EDM, you know, going through the scene in the last few years. Have you got onto the circuit there yet? Have you gone and played in Vegas or?
Well, no. It's interestingly harder to penetrate the EDM American market as who I am. You know what I do. You know they're not interested.
Right. Okay.
If I'm honest, not yet. I've warmed up for Skrillex and Deadmau5, but that was in Canada, and you know they kind of a bit more receptive to me. But America's definitely been a harder market to penetrate. Interestingly enough. Which is fine because I think that, you know, EDM in America still has a long way to go to settle down into its roots. You know, there's a massive sort of fad feeling about it at the moment. And I think once it's settled down and the real DJs and the real producers all sort of emerge to the top, then perhaps...
Get the sound system out again.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure. I think we've got time for a few questions because we went a little late on the start. But thank you, Idris.
Thank you. Cheers.
We've got a microphone. Here we go. Yeah. Any questions from the floor? Anyone
All
want
right.
to ask?
When you were in Baltimore, did you find the music flavors there, the Baltimore bass and so forth? Did that touch you? Did you get into that?
That's a good question because even though I was in Baltimore, I didn't really penetrate that market. I didn't really listen to that sound until I left it and realized that that's what Baltimore was listening to. There's a great DJ, I've forgotten her name now, she's so great, but she died tragically. I think her name was, she was a big Baltimore-based DJ. She died while I was there. And that was the sort of thing that made me go, oh, let me have a listen to what was going on there. It's interesting, that sound as well, because it's really electronic, really deep. It's quite fast and pacey. I haven't ever played anything like it, and I don't think it's quite penetrated the rest of the marketplaces yet, but it's a dope sound, definitely. And good producers as well, I think. Yeah.
Any other questions? Must be one. No.
All right then.
Okay.
Well,
He's got to go and get his set ready for later, so have I. So, Idris Elba.
Thanks so much, man. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming. Cheers.